So tonight we're going to be talking about botanical balance. And obviously, I know that there's a lot of anecdotal evidence of this product, but I know Mr. Masonda loves botanical balance. And more and more, the more people I'm engaging with, I'm hearing about this incredible product and what it's done for them. So I'm going to try to break it down as simply as possible. But where I would love to start by talking about this is basically talking about the mechanism of action of this particular product. And the best place to talk or to start to talk about this product is to talk a little bit about glucose, right? And if we think about our brains and how the main primary source of energy is actually glucose, it brings forth the importance of this particularly simple sugar, understanding that our brains are quite sophisticated. They only make up 2% of our entire body weight, but use 20% of the body's complete glucose so that it can do the work that it needs to do. Unlike the rest of the organs and the rest of our body where we can use fat and protein, we have our brain that exclusively picks a glucose to power up everything that it's doing up there. So, and we've got studies that support this brain connection, research that was published in the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences that suggests that a steady supply of glucose can enhance things like memory, focus and concentration, when in fact, we don't really think of things like that. And conversely, if you don't have enough glucose, say in your diet or circulating in your system, and you've got this impaired glucose intolerance or regulation, that might be linked to things like poorer memory and a shrinking hippocampus. And what that basically is the region of your brain that's actually responsible for things like learning and memory. And this really highlights this crucial role of maintaining a healthy blood sugar levels for optimal brain function. And I thought it was quite an apt place to start at, because when you think of your blood sugar levels, you don't think that your brain is actually at the heart of how the sugars used around our body. So when our sugars drop too low, which we commonly know as hypoglycemia, we experience things like fatigue and confusion, which doesn't feel so good. And then when we've got these chronically high blood sugar levels, also commonly known as hyperglycemia, it can lead to other serious health problems like a disease, like heart disease or stroke. So that's where glucose is seriously important. But to talk about glucose and not talk about diabetes, those things are inextricably linked. And we know that a blood sugar imbalance, which is a condition known as diabetes, casts this very long shadow across the globe. And we are getting to understand that close to 425 million people worldwide currently have diabetes. That's a lot of people. And this sobering statistics highlighted by the International Diabetes Federation, which is the IDF, underscores this immense global impact that diabetes has, and which is creating a huge health crisis. And what's even more concerning is that the IDF goes on to estimate that this number will skyrocket to a projected 629 million people by 2045. That's around the corner. So we will be having 629 million people living with diabetes, and Africa faces a particularly dire situation in this particular space because diabetes prevalence is rising quite rapidly in our continent, and we have close to a disturbing amount of people. 60% of people they're predicting will be living with diabetes in Africa, and they won't be diagnosed. So a lot of people will be walking around in our neighborhoods having this particular thing and not actually knowing that they have it. So it's this lack of awareness that can be quite devastating and lead to these devastating consequences, leading to seriously and potentially life-threatening complications. And how this all ties back to blood sugars, and we need to connect it back to our blood sugars because diabetes and blood sugars are linked. Our bodies rely on glucose, of course, which is the simple sugar for energy, and it's this primary source of fuel for most of our cells. But especially critical, like I mentioned, for the brain. And in diabetes, our bodies basically struggle to manage this essential fuel source. So our bodies can't manage this glucose quite effectively. And there's two main ways that it can happen. And I'm not going to dive too deeply into the two different conditions, but just to understand that there are two ways that it could present itself, especially if it did not present when you were born with it. So you can have something called insulin deficiency, and in some cases, the body doesn't produce enough of this insulin that you need, right? And this is a hormone that helps your cells absorb glucose in your bloodstream. So that's basically what it does. So it makes sure that everything happens how it's supposed to happen, but fundamentally helping you absorb all the glucose that you need for the work to be done. Then we have something that's called insulin resistance, which you hear quite often. Now, insulin resistance is even if you've got this sufficient insulin, so your body makes enough insulin and it's supposed to go where it needs to do, but your cells may become resistant to those effects of how your glucose is supposed to be uptaken, which can lead up to a buildup of glucose in the blood, and that can have quite detrimental consequences. But what I thought would be most important to understand is, why would it matter? Let's say beyond diabetes, why would it matter for people like you and me to manage our blood sugars? And while diabetes, yes, I agree, is a primary concern for blood sugar management, it is not the only reason why blood sugar management is important. Stable blood sugar levels play a significant role in overall health. So it impacts our physical, our mental, our emotional, and even our social well-being. If we look at our physical health, for example, having stable blood sugar levels keeps our bodies fueled efficiently, and studies show us that it can improve our energy levels. They often say that sugar gives you energy, and that's where it comes from. It can also even aid in weight management. So those of you that care about that bottom line, whether you're jumping on the scale or making sure that you're taking care of your weight, this is where you need to be obviously dialing in. So it can help with weight management by helping you curb those cravings instead of having those fluctuations that happen when you're eating sugar-laden food. And also, managing your blood sugars can strengthen your immune system, helping you to be able to fight diseases. So there are many critical areas that managing your blood sugars can be so important. But think about it, if you've got those chronically high blood sugar levels, on the other hand, that can lead to things like delayed wound healing, where you have wounds that take forever to heal because you've got all this high blood sugar circulating within your system, and can also increase your risk of heart disease, which is also another very dangerous thing, and a leading cause, a global cause of death, as we know it of recent time. Then we've got things like mental health, where blood sugars become actually quite important, and you may not have thought about it, but as we understand it now, that the brain relies quite heavily on glucose for energy, right? And blood sugar fluctuations can really disrupt that supply, thinking of leading to things like brain fog, if you've ever experienced things like that. And those are those fluctuations that you feel with your blood sugars spiking up and down. Concentration difficulties. So if your brain matter and in terms of the glucose that's coming in are not quite stable, you may be obviously facing these particular symptoms. You can have things like irritability or even anxiety, and more specifically sugar crashes, which most people do experience. Then we've got an aspect of emotional health when we think of managing our blood sugar levels, which we don't think about. But blood sugar levels can also influence our mood. If you've never thought about it, low blood sugar might trigger things like frustration, and in other places where you hear things like being hangry, so you've got hunger that's combined with anger, so you're feeling quite hangry, and you've got this chronically high blood sugar that can also contribute to things like fatigue and low motivation, and that's how it can actually impact your emotional health. And then if we touch a little bit on social health, unstable blood sugars can make it very challenging to maintain your usual activities and your social interactions because it can change how you feel. So all those things are inextricably linked, outside of the fact that we could be managing our blood sugar levels because we're treating a known condition like diabetes. There are far more other benefits to making sure that we're looking after our blood sugar levels. And this is where it brings me to talking about Botanical Balance, which is like this natural solution. This was a very interesting and a lovely exercise to do to understand the elements that bring this incredible product together. And I know many people love to seek natural ways to maintain their healthy blood sugar levels. And obviously, as discussed earlier, we know stable blood sugars offers a range of benefits, which I touched on just now, things like energy, weight management, and even a well-functioning immune system. And obviously, if you think about the converse, if you don't take care of that, then it can lead to these serious health problems. But now, if you're considering a supplement, you probably should be considering a natural supplement. One such option is this particular product, which is our Neolife Botanical Balance. This is a dietary supplement actually designed to support healthy blood sugar levels. So, and it's made up of a unique blend of these botanical ingredients. And we're going to dive into each one of them and look at how they all come in together into play into this particular product. So we've got cinnamon that's in this blend. We've got turmeric and curcumin. We've got chromium. We've got the alpha lipoic acid that also makes up this unique blend. And we'll dive into that a little bit later. But Neolife Botanical Balance is offering this natural approach to blood sugar management, which is really, really, really awesome. Now let's start with the cinnamon, which is obviously the spice that's got all these health benefits, right? And beyond its familiar use as a fragrance spice, cinnamon does boast a long history of traditional medicine applications across various cultures, which I've come to learn. We've got historical uses of this incredible spice, where we know Egyptians have used cinnamon as far back as 2000 BC for its potential in digestive properties and also embalming properties. Then the traditional Chinese medicine space has incorporated cinnamon for millennia as well, addressing ailments like nausea and diarrhea and circulation issues. So there are a myriad and a number of benefits from this particular fragrance spice. And similarly, we've got ancient Indian medicine that's used cinnamon over some time, which mentions cinnamon for its warming properties and its potential for things like respiratory and joint health. And I've heard anecdotal stories of people who take Botanical Balance for those particular things, which is really, really cool. Then we've got modern research that jumps into the space because we've got this historical use of this particular spice, but modern science is also investigating the traditional uses as well. And studies suggest that the cassia variety of cinnamon. So this cassia variety is the one that we find in our Neolife product. So Neolife Botanical Balance uses this particular variety, which is acacia, and it offers promise for blood sugar management. And some research actually indicates that even a single gram of cinnamon, which is about half a teaspoon, if you care to know, half a teaspoon of cinnamon can improve our body's ability to use glucose for energy, which is really, really cool. Now, we've got, when I break it down as to how the dosage works, we've got these 2 tablets. Of course, you take 4 in a day, but 2 tablets with one of your biggest meal, 2 tablets of Neolife Botanical Balance that could provide you with about 500 milligrams of cinnamon, right? Which is offering individuals this convenient way to incorporate this potentially beneficial spice into your daily regimen alongside your healthy diet and exercise, which obviously can be the game changer when you're thinking about blood sugar management. Then comes, we've got curcumin and turmeric. And turmeric, as we all know, is this vibrant yellow spice with also a long history of traditional use. And it's actually prized for this golden color that it has and its health benefits. Now, curcumin curcumin is actually a key compound found in turmeric, and actually is the main focus of a lot of the research that goes on around turmeric. And some of the traditional uses that we know for turmeric has been for things like digestive issues, for things like bloating and stomach ulcers, and that's where turmeric tends to shine. And it's also been purported for its antiseptic properties and wound healing properties, and those that are obviously looking to manage skin-related concerns. So that's where turmeric begins to shine. And with modern research, looking at curcumin, emerging research suggests that curcumin can play a role in things like brain health and cognitive function, which is absolutely exciting. And then we've got studies that have been done on animal models, and they've observed these positive effects on memory and cognitive performance. So this particular spice actually has a lot of research and a lot of knowledge to obviously share with us. Now, thinking about how curcumin plays with blood sugars is that a lot of the studies that have been done in this particular space, they suggest that curcumin may improve insulin sensitivity, which is exactly what you're looking for, particularly if you're like pre-diabetic, or if you're predisposed, or you're looking to manage your weight. You may want to improve your insulin sensitivity so your cells don't resist all that sugar, so that you can actually use it for what it's meant for. So you basically benefit by being able to control your blood sugar. And Neolife Botanical Balance now includes this turmeric powder, which is obviously a natural source of curcumin, because curcumin is found in turmeric, and will give you this 100 milligram dose extract in each tablet. And this approach, I'd like to think of it as it aims to provide this broadest spectrum of curcuminoids, right? Because you've got the benefit of just the turmeric root and also the curcumin root as well, and potentially increasing the total curcumin that you're taking in. And so you're basically harnessing those benefits synergistically. Now, the third element that you find inside Botanical Balance, which is absolutely key, is chromium. And chromium is basically a trace mineral, and that has obviously these benefits. And it includes just 10 micrograms of chromium per capsule. And this amount might seem small. And obviously chromium is a trace mineral, but plays a really, really crucial role in spaces like carbohydrate metabolism, which obviously impacts how our blood sugars are being controlled in our body. And chromium's role, and studies also show us that chromium may be involved in how our bodies breaks down carbohydrates, which influences particularly those enzymes that are involved in breaking down carbohydrates and how they are utilized thereafter, and ultimately directly linked to how our blood sugars are being controlled in our body. Then we've got the relationship between chromium and insulin, which is where you often find chromium being obviously talked about the most. And chromium works alongside insulin, which is obviously that hormone that I mentioned earlier, which is responsible for regulating your blood sugar levels. And it could basically help the cells become more responsive to insulin. So you've got this natural insulin, but your cells aren't responsive, and chromium could be that game changer, allowing them to absorb that glucose that you already have readily available in your system, so it can work more effectively. So some important considerations that you need to take into account now is that with improved insulin sensitivity, let's just say now you're drinking this Botanical Balance and you're now getting the benefit of it. With this improved insulin sensitivity, you've got this improved insulin signaling. So basically your cells become more receptive to absorbing glucose from the bloodstream, and that's what we want. And this ultimately helps regulate your blood sugar levels and prevents them from spiking excessively, especially after meals. Now, the fourth element of Botanical Balance is alpha lipoic acid. I often get questions about this particular amino acid, and Botanical Balance is one of our Neolife products that actually has this particular amino acid, and will provide with 12.5 milligrams of ALA per tablet, so alpha lipoic acid. And this is an antioxidant, basically naturally produced by our bodies and can be found in food. So you can find this in some foods that you eat on a day-to-day basis, but our bodies actually naturally produce this. And also here, the dosage may seem small, but research just suggests that it offers potential benefits even at its low dosage for things like nerve health, particularly individuals managing diabetes. And that becomes quite important because diabetes, as we know, can lead to things like nerve damage, which is quite common. And commonly known as diabetic neuropathy, right? And this occurs to having chronically high blood sugar levels, so basically uncontrolled sugar levels, and most of the time you don't know. And how you usually present the symptoms thereafter is that there'll be numbness in your body, there'll be tingling, there'll be a burning pain, there'll be weakness, there'll be digestive issues. There may be even variations in weight when this first presents. And alpha lipoic acid provides benefits, particularly towards this nerve health. And the exact mechanism is not fully understood and is still being explored, but we know that alpha lipoic acid has this antioxidant power, which obviously helps to combat things like oxidative stress, which is a cellular process, as we know, that can contribute to nerve damage, particularly in diabetes, as I mentioned. Then we've got improved blood sugar management, where alpha lipoic acid also comes to the forefront, because we've got studies that show us and suggest that it may improve this insulin sensitivity, which is what we want, and ultimately leading to this management of our blood sugars, blood sugar levels, and indirectly obviously impacting our nerve health. Then we've got enhanced nerve function. So it works in these three spaces. So this antioxidant power, and obviously blood sugar management, and also enhancing how our nerves work, where we've got our research that obviously also suggests that it improves nerve regeneration and improve how nerve functioning happens, especially with individuals that already struggle with diabetic neuropathy. Now, to conclude, understanding how botanical balance becomes a game changer, particularly for individuals who just want something to add into their supplements, chest, or vitamin box. This is basically a great place to start, because Neolife Botanical Balance recommends just taking 2 tablets twice daily before meals. So basically you'll have these 4 capsules per day, and that translates to about 40 micrograms of chromium, 50 micrograms of alpha lipoic acid. Then we've got the cinnamon extract with all those benefits that come along with 1,000 milligrams of a cinnamon extract. Then we've got 400 milligrams of curcumin. And Botanical Balance is potentially complementing your efforts in achieving and maintaining basically a healthy lifestyle, and and obviously including a balanced diet and regular exercise. And fundamentally, if you are looking to also do proper weight management, which is absolutely essential for those that are looking for blood sugar control. So until we talk frankly again, I'm going to leave it here, and hopefully you've learned something new about Botanical Balance, particularly about those 4 elements, that a unique blend that comes together to ensure that this is actually quite a powerful supplement. Thank you very much.